Hello, Charlie TCG here, and welcome back to another deck profile for post-rotation. Today, let's look at Spidops Leafeon VMAX, one of my most hyped cards going into set, but is it performing as well as I hope it is? So, how's it doing right now in Japan? It has had a couple top 16 in City League, and it's pretty powerful. Like, it has a really good stacking ability that can lead to these big powerful attacks, whether through Spidops or Leafeon VMAX's Grass Knot attack. Really strong stuff where you can capable to do so much damage with having as many Spidops out in play. Unfortunately, it is very ability focused, so you can get shot off by path, and also they're really low basic HP, so it can kind of get targeted very easy. So let's have a look at the list and see, kind of talk about the strategy for it. So we do play a 4-4 line of Spidops. I really like this because it goes from a 60 HP Pokemon to a 260 HP stage 1. Really good and powerful. Its ability pretty much says the opponent's active Pokemon's retreat cost is 1 more. So you have 4 Spidops out, their retreat cost is 4 more damage, 4 more. So if they have a retreat cost of 4, you have 4 Spidops out, their retreat cost all of a sudden now is 8. And this is team up with his attack, which has 90 plus 30 for each retreat cost in the opponent's active. If you have 3 Spidops out, which you probably were most game, that's an additional 90 more damage. And that's pretty good, especially if they have potentially 2 retreat costs in there. You're doing an additional 150 damage with the 90. It's 240, very reasonable, good enough damage. But we could team up with Leafeon VMAX. I really like this. You put on 2-2 line. Leafeon VMAX has the amazing ability where you can search your deck for a grass energy attached to a Pokemon, but your turn ends, so really good going first. But the VMAX has Grass Knot 60 times the amount of energies in the opponent's retreat cost. You have 2 Spidops out, that's 180, plus the amount which is already there. So doing a little bit more, doing about the same amount, but then once you get to 4, Leafeon VMAX does do a lot more than Spidops does. So it's good to really consider and think about going into this tournament, because you can kind of think about if you want to attack with Spidops or Leafeon VMAX as like a good heavy end hitter. We do run a 2-2 line of Zoroark. Why Zoroark? Well, because Spidops is the stage 1 and Zoroark is stage 1, doesn't specify rule box, so you can easily slot in the Zoroark line, so you don't need to worry about if the Pokemon gets KO'd. You can search out with it and get it out from the discard pile with Zoroark's amazing ability. We do on 1 copy of Mightyena. It is basically our Mew counter, and it's so good because it already hits the guarantees the KO against Mew, and you don't need to worry about playing a Drapion, which will cost 2 prizes. Do run Manaphy to try and help prevent the big KOs on the sniping with your the Tarantula Pokemon and Bibarel, which is really good because we have a 2-2 line of Bibarel as our draw engine to really help utilize to get out as much cards as possible. And Bibarel has synergy with Zoroark. So all of it really works together. It's like a Zoro box, but focusing more on big retreat cost in the opponent to hit hard with Spidops and Leafeon VMAX. So I really love that sort of feature about it. With that, we go into the item cards. We play 4 Nest Ball, Ultra Ball, and Capturing Aroma. We want as much draw to search for your Pokemon as much as possible. Nest Ball guarantees the basic Pokemon. Ultra Ball gets the any Pokemon you might want and discard potentially a Spidops or Mightyena, which you can use later on with Zoroark's ability. We do run 4 Capturing Aroma. This is definitely becoming a bit more of a staple in these sort of evolution style decks, because depending on what you get, you can either get a basic Pokemon or an evolved Pokemon. Sometimes you always flip to try and get the evolved Pokemon, but you always get rewarded with basic. So it's a double-edged sword, but it's a really good sort of synergy, especially in these style of evolving lists. And then we run 2 switching cards with 1 escape rope and 1 switch. You always need to have this because even you're trying to get many retreat costs in your opponent's active Pokemon. All of your guys kind of do have quite a bit of retreat costs, so you want to have the flexibility of switching. Supported, you run 4 research to try and guarantee that draw. That's such an amazing card. 2 copies of Judge. You want to try and be disruptive as well. Like if you could team up a Judge plus loads of Spidops out in play, you could potentially stall out a few turns by your opponent not being able to retreat. 2 copies of Boss and 1 Serena. Really good to have Gusting Effect, try and get those easy KOs, because fun fact, Tyranitar single strike is weak to grass, so Spidops and Leafeon can hit into it and get an easy 2 prizes. And we play 1 copy of Jax. Definitely an interesting card to choice. It does pretty much say you search your deck for 2 evolved Pokemon. So it's really good in that in this sort of stage to get your Spidops or Leafeons or Zoroarks. But I wouldn't say this is like a go-to card, which I'm very happy about having in this list, but it's definitely something which I'm considering with this list. We do run for our Stadium of Coins 3 copies of Mesagoza. I really like this card. I think it's really strong just to flip a coin and get any Pokemon you want if it's heads. Again, similar other sort of lists. Once we get our new set, we can replace this with the Stadium, which allows your stage 1s to do 10 more damage, or even the guarantee get a basic Pokemon put on your bench. We'll probably go into those sort of spots, but right now, Mesagoza is a really good one. And you're playing quite high account, so you can guarantee the bump against Path. Tools, we're not running any V-Star, we're not running the Leafeon V-Star. We're playing Forest Steel Stone to guarantee any card we may need. A 2 count, so we can try and hit it kind of as quickly as possible. If we do Warrior, we might prize it. And 1 could be a Choice Belt, because then Spidops and Leafeon VMAX can get that big damage to potentially get the huge KO on like Lugias or Giratina V-Stars. We're on 2 copies of V-Guard Energy and 7 Grass Energies as our energy cards of choice. The V-Guard is really good because it can slow down, make sure Spidops can have 280 HP and Leafeon could have up to 330, which is really, really good and especially strong in this meta. Energy count is only 7. You could argue to potentially add like a Raihan in this list, so you can kind of like be okay with the 7 energy, but you always have to do an attachment and it kind of can take a little bit of time. So that's why I like the Leafeon V, so you can get like potentially 2 energy accelerations out turn 1, spread it out, so then by the time you attack and go into your second turn of the game, you're in a good commanding spot, because if you put 2 energies on 1 Pokemon that gets KO'd, you're really, really falling behind. So that's something you need to consider about, especially in this list, is where you're going to place your energies, because you will take 2 turns to get set up. So if that is the list, I'm a huge fan of it. I really like this. I can't wait to really play this deck. Definitely something I'm really considering to play at locals. But what's its matchups like? Actually, it's not as bad as you may think. Like I said, Lugia is pretty good because you can trap some Pokemon in the active. You can get KOs and Archeops quite easily with your Spidops as well as your Leafeon VMAX. They can't really get a big KO if you play V-Guard Energy. The Tyranitar can't actually get the 1-hit KO on the VMAX, which is really, really good. As well as you also hit for weakness against Tyranitar, so that's really, really powerful. Arceus box, same thing. A lot of them have quite high HP, not HP, high HP as well as high retreat costs. So 2 to 3 Spidops, all of a sudden the Arceus has 5 retreat costs, and you're hitting a lot very hard with the Leafeon as well as Spidops. Sorry, they just blanked on me for a second, even though there's videos about it. Same thing with Gardevoir. Gardevoir takes a while to set up. They put a lot of damage on there, so then you can get some easy KOs through that way. Kind of a bit positive. It's not exactly like amazing, like it has an auto win against certain decks. It mainly does well because other decks kind of have really high retreat or have a really low HP. Negatives, definitely Lost Zone deck box is 50-50. It's really good to like get like these, it's a big HP and it kind of guarantees some KOs with having like 2 Spidops out in play, because everyone has a 1 retreat cost, so make sure they don't have Beach Court out. Same thing with Tina. The reason it's negative and also 50-50, you can get some cheeky KOs and wins by potentially some boss stalling to not get them using their switching cards and having this really high retreat cost Pokemon. And so that's kind of like a bit of a negative, like you kind of want to go around, but they also can go to single price attackers, which can really struggle in this list. Mew, like I said before, and other things, you do have Mightyena to get the KO, and that kind of can put you forward to it, but I still think it could be a bit negative. Like you always have to try and make sure you have the Zoroarks out, and if they see that as a play, they're going to gun down these Zoroarks as a main attacking sort of strategy from you, as well as shuffling it in and maybe going with single price attackers if they have that route. And Miraidon EX, I kind of put a little bit of a negative. Miraidon could be really explosive, and it can go kind of like a 2-2-2, like as long as it gets set up and as long as it's always getting a KO, Miraidon can always overpower some decks. And as they have a really low retreat cost anyway, you need so much to try and get the big 1-hit KOs. So that's why it's on a negative sort of way. Overall, it is fun. It's not going to be the big competitive groundbreaking deck. I think it has a 1 top 8 placement in this entire run. So it's not exactly the biggest, like amazing deck in the format, but I love it. I think it's really fun. I love that Zoroark has a good incorporation in this list. I love the Spidops amazing ability. I think this deck could go well. I think it's definitely a deck which you would take to locals, really try it out, kind of like put your own spin onto it. But this is my sort of a take on the list right now. And definitely a deck which I probably will take to locals in the first week of it being legal. But anyway, that's the end of this deck profile. If you're new, consider giving me a like and subscribe. And if you've liked the video, comment down below if you want to try out and if you feel like this is the best optimal list for it. My name is TCG. I hope you've enjoyed this video and I will see you guys in a few days. Bye for now.